Hi guys, and welcome back. I'm finishing off a couple of videos that never got finished because of other things cropping up with fault and things that I may have blown up myself. So anyway, in this video I'm going to finish off the Spectra Video 328 HDMI where I permanently mount it into the case. Now I have all the measurements and everything and worked out where it's going to go. We'll go through and do that. And the other thing is the TZX Dreno. The machines are all working fine now. And I've redesigned the plug case so you don't need an external power supply. Now this uses the cassette port on the Spectra Video for power, audio, and the remote for the cassette to turn on and off. Those are the two majors I'm going to do, and if there's time and I haven't gone too far along, there'll be a couple other little projects to finish off with boards that have come in and a few other bits and pieces I'd like to show you. That's where I'm up to, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Without much more, grab yourself a seat and a drink if you want one, something to nibble on, sit back and relax, and let's get on with it. Okay guys, so here we are, we're back at the Spectra Video. This is the one I removed the CPU for to put in the TNVDP. I'm going to take it apart. I've unscrewed the board and everything earlier. I'm going to take it apart and I'm just going to show you. I've mapped out on the back how I want this to go, so I'm going to do that. You'll also see in the background here, I'll get into a bit more on that, but I've redesigned the case for the TZX and it's got the adapter in it, so everything is run from the cassette port. So the power, the in, and the motor on off is run from the cassette port. There'll be a bit more on that later on. The main one I want to do is the Spectra Video HDMI and putting the jack into the back of it. We're going to get along and do that, then go on to the TZX and we'll put it on the screen, on the big screen, so you can see it. If there's time and we haven't gone too far into it, do a little bit more as well. There's a few of the boards and that I want to do for the Tang Nano, which is the version 1 boards and that as well. So I want to do those and the VGA board to go with that as well. So we're going to get on with that. I'll pull this apart and then we'll get down to the next bit. Alrighty. Alright, so now we're down to just the base case. On the back here, you can see I've actually drawn on here. This is actually a label, a couple of sticky labels I've put on here that I've drawn this on. I measured it up. All I used was a pair of verniers and the plug that's going in the back here, which is the HDMI plug, and I've made it so that it'll actually screw into here. Now I did check with the board inside here, and all the settings I've got here, it will fit in with the board inside, so it's going to fit in there and not be in the way of anything, which is good. The only issue might be is if you plug an expander into this, that might be an issue. I've not plugged an expander into this to see. Anyway, that's what it is. I will pop up a drawing of the dimensions of this, and it should be a 1-to-1, so what you can do is get it and print it out. Other than that, I will have the dimensions on it from where I'm putting it here, because this is where the cassette port and the video ports are, and in here is where the bus expansion is for the super expander or the cards to go into. So I'll get on with that. What I'm going to do is I'll get the Dremel, and I want to use the Dremel to make the small mount holes that I need and to cut that block out, and just do it gently and then use a small file to actually cut it out. So I'll get on and do that, and you guys can see what I'm doing as I'm going along, see how I put it all together. Okay, so what you saw there is I drilled the corners and then cut it with the drill bit, and the drill bit I used is a double-ended drill bit, a 3mm one. You can do them with smaller if you want to do smaller. I just used a small file, fairly fine one, because the plastic is very soft to file anyway. So I filed that away, and then I put the cable connector in the opposite way around, because why I filed it out is the end of this cable has a plastic shroud around the plug itself, and so that's a little bit bigger than the actual internal metal piece. So that's why I had to make the hole a little bit bigger, so that would fit in and it would poke out the back a little bit more. So then once I got that and it was quite snug, then I just put it in the opposite way round, and with my desoldering tool cleaner, I just put the marks on the label where the two holes had to drill through. And I didn't have a small enough drill on me. I usually do have down to about 1mm. So what I got is in my Dremel kit that comes with these various burrs and that, and there's a burr here for drilling holes, and it's like a step drill type thing, but it's a burr. And I just, because it has a fine point, goes to a bigger point, I just drilled it through until it almost went through, and then I used a smaller than the size of the screw burr, and I just went through the hole with that. And then, as you saw, I tried the screws and that was a little bit small, so then I went to the next size burr up and then did that, and the screws fit in there really, really nice. Now why I have the tape on here is it also helps with marking on the case. There will be a few little nicks or that on there which you can't get away from, unless you sort of meticulously spending ages doing it. If you want to, that's up to you, but you won't really see it when it's plugged in. So this is on here for now, so this has got to come off. The plug will have to go in when the board and everything's on, because the board's got to go underneath this plug and then this will go in. But you'll see all that in a minute. So I'll give this a clean. I'll clean up all the mess on the bench here as well, from all the plastic filings and that, and then we'll come back to putting the board and everything back into this. Okay, so I'll see you shortly. Right, so I've got the machine all back together. I've put the HDMI cable in for the hole at the back. Now I've had to alter that. I should take my own advice, and that is measure twice or thrice, which is 3 times, before you cut. As you can see, I was the width of the plug out, so 7.9mm. I put some more tape on, marked it out. I heated the back up with the hot air for a second or two, and then used a knife, a single-sided blade, one of these, and I just heated it up and scored down, scored across, and as soon as it got too hard, I just brought it back, heated it up for another second or two, scored down, until I got at least half the way through the top. Then I just pushed it down through the side, so I cut through, and with a small pair of pliers I just got it, and it bent back and then bent forward and came out. And that's the piece you can see in the bottom there. So that'll fit in there, and I just think a little bit of glue around the sides for that, and then probably something to plug up the holes. I do 3D printing, so I'm pretty sure bone is very close to this, and there is also some wood style filaments that are very, very close to this. So one of those may work in here. But I mean, this is my own one, so I'm not overly worried. I'm a bit annoyed at myself, but I'm not overly worried it's happened to this, so, and not a customer's machine. So I have updated all the drawings to take into account for this, that it's all moved up that little bit higher. Alright, and as you can see underneath here, it all goes past everything, and the screws fit in there fine, and it's all in there nice and secure. So that's where the VDP is going to go into here. So this has lots of room to move around to plug into the board. So what I will do is, before we go down the track of putting the video in here, I'll just show you it working on the normal monitor first, and then we'll pop the chip out, put in the TNVDP, and then what we will do is fire it up on the HDMI on that, and I can put it onto the screen on the HDMI on the monitor. I will see if I can do that. If I can't capture it on the screen, then what I will do is just turn this big camera around so you can see it. I will now get all of it. I won't bother about putting the keyboard in. This is just a test to see that it fires up, and because these are the pieces off the back of the case when I had to recut it. And as I say, I just use labels, or if you've got it like some just white tape so you can write on it. And this is just an insulation tape, and just a couple of little bits across, and then you can mark it with a pen to make sure you're in the right place, and then cut it out. And leaving this on too, it stops marks getting on the case. So anyway, what I will do now is I will tidy up a little bit, and I will spin the camera around so you can actually see it on the monitor on the side here. And then, all going well, if that works, we'll then put the TNVDP into here, and then set it up to do it on the other screen. And then I think put the keyboard on, and then go through the TZX, see how we go with that. Give me a sec, I'll just clean up some bits and pieces on here and get me things out of the way, and get the power supply and everything ready for it, and get back to you. Okay, so here we are, we're all set and going, and so what I will do now is I'll turn it on and we'll see what happens. Yep, and everything comes up fine. So that's with the standard video processor in it. Now, I don't have a heatsink on this video processor. It's fine for a minute or two, but then they'll start to get very, very hot, which is not good for them. So what I'll do is I'll turn this off now, and then what we'll do is we'll hook up the HDMI. Okay, so here we are back to the machine again. So what I've got to do is I've just got to put the keyboard back on it and make sure this is in the right place, and then screw it all down. So I'll do that. You don't need to see me do it. I'll do that, and then we'll come back. And then what we will do is fire it up and try the TZX on it and load some games and see how they look in HDMI. Alright, I'll be back shortly. Okay guys, so here we are. As you can see, I've only got the HDMI plugged into it. The video out and audio out is not connected. You'll see down the bottom, if you look closely, it's blue just in that very corner where the video and audio goes in. What I do is, that's really, really hard to see which is audio and which is video on those, because considering both the jacks are black. So I just use a Sharpie or a vivid marker, and I just gently go over the top of the raised lettering, and then what you can do is then you can read which one says video and which one says audio. So just a little tip there. I mean, it does make life a lot easier. So you can do it whatever colour, blue, black, whatever you want to do it in. This is all in and plugged up and ready to go. So I will show you the TZX that I did now. And so you may remember I was talking to you as I wanted to run it off the set port, everything. Most of the ones that come along, the case was quite small, and it only had it for the audio only, for one plug. So, and that was just for the sound to come out. it didn't have the connection for the remote switch, and it didn't have the connection for power or anything. You had to run that all separately through a separate power connector. So I decided that, well, I'll Frankenstein this a wee bit, and I haven't got long enough screws at the moment to go through this plug, so I've just taped it. But I've made it so you have power, the audio, and the motor switch. So I've got to debug the motor switch. It's not continuously working, so I think it might be a wiring or connector on the end here that's not quite right. But the rest of it works fine. I put things on sockets and standoffs, so it's a bit high. That's why I've had to cut the case here. If you're building it normally, everything would be low enough and you wouldn't need to do this. The only thing you'd have to do is to cut a hole for the USB mini to go in if you're going to do it the same way with a 3-way plug like this. I mean, you could do it the same with a mini B and go into the front of your Nano if you want to. I just think it's nicer if they can all come together into the side. I do have an issue with one of the cables a little bit shorter than the others, but those can all be shortened up later on anyway. So inside here, all I've got is a DC to DC converter, and it's just taking the 12 volt from the cassette port and dropping it down to 5 volts for the board for the TZX and that to run. So, and this Spectra Video can handle up to 1.5 amps on the 12 volt rail, so that'll be fine. Other than the odd old RAM chip or EEPROM chip that may go into here, it's not really going to use a lot of 12 volts. It's mainly 5. So this will be fine, and I've had it working for a while and it's working fine. So all I've done is I find it hard to try and remember what buttons do what on here, so I've just marked them as up, down, stop, play and root directory. That's all I've done. So I mean, this does need a bit more tidying up, and the holes are a little bit big on the side, so I've got to redo those. But I have all these files and everything all done, so I just need to, as I say, rejig these connections here. Then once all that's done, I will actually release the file onto Thingiverse or one of those free platforms for 3D files, STL files, for anybody else that wants to do it. So it's pretty much exactly the same as the original one. I'm using the same internal. I didn't remake that. I only had to make the top and the bottom shell because I needed the width inside to put the DC to DC converter and the extra cables. Alright, so what we'll do is we've got the SD card in there. It's all set to go. So what I will do is I'll plug this into the back of the Spectra Video. Okay, we'll just put that chip up and out of the way. So here we are. And we've got it all set to go now. So what I will do is I will spin one of the cameras around so you can actually see what's happening on the HDMI. Just hang with me for a second and I'll do that. Okay, so we're ready to go. So I've got the big camera over on the main screen so you can see what's happening there. I've got the little one over the TZX so you can see what comes up on that screen. I will flip that around at some stage just so it's out of our way. But power on. And, oh, sorry. Alrighty, so we're ready to go. So I'll switch this over to HDMI 1, and we're ready to go. So here we are, and the Tang Nano's up and running, as you can see, and there we have the Spectra Video on the screen. So what I'll do is I will bring up a game. This one is Arkanoid. So what we'll do is we'll do okay guys, so we're ready to go. Now what I also did is that doing the cables for these, you had to make them so small. They were a real pain to put it inside the Spectra Video. So I wondered, because the longer you made them, the worse it got and you wouldn't get any picture. So I wondered that I had the big long cable. Oh, it's got to be interference. So I thought you can buy that self-adhesive foil tape, as I have done just to prove a point with this one. I used some aluminium foil, cooking foil, and then I just used clear tape to go over the top so it wouldn't short inside the case. So I now have a 300mm long cable inside here. This is the Tang Nano sitting right over this other side. You can see me in the little screen. I'll just see if I can make it a bit bigger. Okay, so that's a Tang Nano over here. And as you can see, this is a big long 300mm cable. It's going from the board all the way over here. Now, I'll turn this on and you'll see when we go over onto the other screen, you'll actually see that it doesn't interfere with it now. And you can have as long a cable as you like. I was picking that may have been the issue, but I was just getting time to try out these things. And I'm glad this one works fine. But I am still going to change the headers on these little daughter boards that go in. I'm going to put them to the 90 degree, because when they're standing up they sit so much proud they actually push onto the keyboard, onto the bottom of the keyboard, and you don't want pressure on those. So I'm going to change those around. But I will just put the top back on there, and then what I'll do is I'll minimize the screen down a little bit for you, and then what we can do is then we can have a look at the TZX running games. Alright, let's get on with it. Well guys, I'm sorry to say that that machine I just put the HDMI into has an issue with the cassette port. The machine works fine, it's just that it will not see audio on the cassette port. So what I've done is I have plugged in the other Spectra videos with the Castrino in it, and I was just making sure it wasn't a cable or something like that. So what I'll do is I'll just show you that the Castrino is actually working. So I'll turn this on. And as you can see, it's actually loading the program. Sorry, hit the wrong button. And so there you go. It's now loading in the information into the PC. The thing that the Spectra videos did, which a lot of other PCs didn't do in their day, was they loaded the graphics directly into VRAM. They didn't load it into normal RAM. It went straight into the graphics RAM. And it saved time and it saved space. So you'll see there it's pretty much an aqua color or a light blue, and then the second time through it will actually change and it'll become color as it's adding in more and more information. And there we go. So this is Armoured Assault. This is just to show you that it is working, and the TZX is working fine. I'm going to have to, with the HDMI on the other one, it is working fine, as I showed you. The only thing is there's an issue with the cassette port. So that may be another repair video down the track. I do have a few other things I want to tidy up before I get into that. So there's a few little boards and things like that that I'd like to make up and get sorted. So I think I may do those first, and then we can look at getting back into doing that. And there's quite a few others I've got to look at tackling and getting onto as well. But there we go. Spectre Radio presents Armoured Assault. It's a joystick game, so I can't do anything with the keys or that. As far as I can remember, it is. I'd have to look up in the manual to see what keys moved what around. But as you can see, it's all working. The only thing I've got to look at sorting out is the on the TZX is the motor control. For some reason, it doesn't want to start and stop the tape by itself. You've got to play, and then once it started playing, you got to pause, run it, and then press play again. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I need to just check the wiring. I did a quick look and it looks okay, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on there. All the settings in the TZX are set up fine, so yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I think that's us for now. We got 2 of them done. Found another fault with one of the machines, and we're going to have to get onto that. So this one here is probably, it's my spare one. I've got a few of them, so I may look at doing the HDMI on this one as well, since I know everything else is working fine, and it's just removal of a processor and putting a socket in. And as you can see, you can put the longer cable in the VDP, the Tang Nano, because as I showed you, by putting the foil on both sides of that, you can actually make it so it's a long cable rather than a wee short one. You can do that. I have got somewhere, it's a self-adhesive foil tape, and it comes in quite wide. It's probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, about 3 centimeters. You buy it from a lot of the what we call $2 shops, which are the Asian shops, you know, the $1, $2, $3 shops. They have that, and it's fairly cheap. So that, then you could stick it on and put it on, and it should self-adhesive. And I'm pretty sure that has a coating on it, so it won't short out. I'm not 100% sure. I'd need to meter it, but failing that, you can self-adhesive that on, and then get some clear wide tape from the same place, run it over the top and insulate it. The other thing is if you just want to buy the tape, is use tinfoil like I did. Run some tinfoil over it, clear tape, insulate it, and away you go. So I think that's a better idea because it gives you more room to move around, and in other machines where you got a bit more room, or you might be a bit limited in where you can put the Tang Nano, is to use that to fix that problem. So I will leave this one here, and we will carry on. Well, there we go, guys. That's those 2 done and dusted. Pretty much. There's only that one issue with the HDMI machine, which has got a problem with the audio, which was something separate. Another job for another day. From here, there'll be a few more little jobs coming up, and some more videos coming up of other bits and pieces to be done. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, and it's given you a bit of interest. I know there's been a bit of interest in some of the obscure machines that I've done on here that people want to see more on. They will be coming in the future. I have got some other machines that have got to come in as well. Some of those older machines that I did during the COVID times are buried away in the back of the shed, so other stuff's got to come out before I can get to those, but they will get done. So again, thank you very much for watching, and give us a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing, and subscribe if you'd like to. No pressure. As I say, guys, keep well, and until next time, ciao.